Part of doing missions work is trusting in God's protection. And I told a story about God's provision, but when you travel, and especially when you're involved in cross-cultural missions, there's always a need to trust in God's protection, even if you don't know that you should. So I wanted to relate the story of our first connection with Bolivia, which was one of our first projects. Our first projects for Catalyst were in Bolivia and Indonesia. So through a board connection, I got connected with a Bolivian national missionary, somebody that's from Bolivia. He's actually from the Beni department in a little pueblo called Baures. And this guy's name is Inuel. And so Inuel and I had a conversation. I think that it was in the year 2014 or maybe coming into 2015, but nonetheless we had a conversation and I related to him what Catalyst was endeavoring to do with training indigenous leaders, training pastors and disciples and church planters in their own context to make disciples their established healthy church with a vision to reach lostness. And he said, yes, of course, we'd love to have you come to Bolivia. So we began the process of going to Bolivia. At this time, I did not speak very much Spanish, or at least my Spanish, in my own opinion, was not very good. So I call Inuel, and as I'm talking to him about the plans, because I really want to make sure I have everything planned before I go. I've never been down here to Bolivia, never met this guy, and I don't speak very much Spanish. I'm talking to him and I said, okay, understand we're going to go out to this place called the Beni department, which is where he was from. He knows people there. Let's go out there to check it out and see if there would be a need for this. And I just asked a simple question. Where are we going to stay? He said, you guys try to plan everything. We trust the Holy Spirit. And I thought, oh my goodness, what have I gotten myself into? I don't even know where we're staying. I don't know who. He told me somebody was going to pick me up from the airport and take me to where he was. The flight that I was on down to Bolivia got me there at like 4 o'clock in the morning. And I'll never forget that on the plane, I was conversing with a Bolivian national who told me that they might try to steal my money in the airport, so I really needed to hide it well. So I'm going in here alone into Bolivia without speaking a whole lot of Spanish and not having a great plan, and I am basically freaking out on the inside while I'm going through this whole process of getting a visa on arrival and all the rest of it. When I finally make it through security and I get out to the waiting area, I see this guy who he's got a cardboard cutout where he's written my name sort of, and he puts it up against the glass. And I'm thinking that has to be my ride, because I don't think anybody else here would have a name that looks like that. So I get into the taxi with him, and I'm thinking this guy could drop me off in the middle of nowhere and I would never know any different. He drops me off at this mission house in Santa Cruz, and the guy who answers the door is Inuel, who was awakened at 5 o'clock in the morning to receive me. I still don't know this guy. We barely say any words to each other, and we both go in dead tired and fall asleep. And so that was my first introduction to Bolivia, and as you can tell, there was a lot of God's protection on that trip. Well, He continued to protect us, because the way that we got out to the Beni department was on a Cessna. And there's a great pilot that serves with South American Missions Air. His name is Greg, and he's been down in Bolivia for over 15 years. And he serves as a pilot for mission teams that are going out into various regions of Bolivia. Well, I had never flown on a Cessna before, and we get into the plane, and as you can imagine, those planes get beat around quite a bit more by the wind than your normal, like commercial jet. So we're being told by air traffic control as we're up in the air at about 1,000 feet that we can't go any higher. And you might know this, but Bolivia is very hot, close to the equator, and so as we're sitting there in turbulence, shaking, and it's hot, I'm about to get sick, and I'm thinking, all right, I don't know if I can throw up out the window, because if I throw up out the window, it's going to come right back in. So I'm looking for anything to relieve myself, and the only thing I can find is an umbrella. and it's kind of an open umbrella. So I was about to take it, and right then air traffic control comes over and says you can go up another 1,000 feet, and once we get up there it's much smoother and cooler. And I turned to the pilot and I said, man, I was about to get sick back there. I'm glad we got up higher. He said, I know, me too. And I thought, oh my goodness, the pilot just said he was about to get sick. We end up landing in the Benny department. We go to a place called Trinidad, and we share with a number of pastors there about the work. And as a part of all of that, as a part of beginning the work in the Benny department, I got connected with another guy who was raised in the Benny department, a guy named Nielsen. And Nielsen has an incredible story that God had been weaving together such that we met each other at just the right time. Nielsen had been jailed unjustly for about 3 years, and in Bolivia the system is you're not innocent till proven guilty, you are guilty until you are exonerated and proven innocent. And so he was thrown into jail in La Paz for about 3 years. And before he got there, there had been a work that had been started where they had planted a church inside the jail. It was called Aposento Alto, which means the upper room, because that's, if you go into the jail, you have to go up some steps and there's the church. So as they put Nielsen in this part of the jail, when he got there, immediately the church, who knew him somehow, said, you are here to be our pastor. In other words, you've been jailed unjustly, and that's terrible, but God's got a purpose in this because you have come here to be our pastor. Well, eventually, as he pastors the church there for the entire time that he's in jail, and develops a heart for those who are in the jails of Bolivia who need to come to Christ, and many of whom can be missionaries back in their home area. And so Nielsen gets out of prison, but obviously now that he has a record, even though he was unjustly jailed and was eventually exonerated, nobody really wanted to hire him. And so, being from the Benny, knowing the work that was going on, we eventually get connected, and Nielsen has now been serving with us for about 4 years, and he has become our national coordinator in Bolivia. And one of the most amazing things that has happened through this ministry in Bolivia is that we have begun groups of training in the jails, among us, especially there in Aposento Alto, and we've seen pastors that have come out of the jail after being trained and have planted churches. And so it's an amazing God story of how it all got connected with His protection and His connection, and we're looking forward to see what happens going forward.